Hey there, baseball fans. Nathan Rohde and Shooter Hunt here with the latest episode of Coffee and Curveballs. We're going to talk about some guys that we saw ourselves in the last week, but we're also going to have Chris Kemlo on from PBR Ontario to talk about his trip to Florida, where he saw Team Canada as well as the Ontario Blue Jays and other Canadian prospects. Before we get to that, let's jump into what Shooter and I saw in the last week. Shooter, for me, I got to see Owen White for the first time this spring.
Ooh.
Coming out of basketball season, I heard his first outing was just okay, but then not last week, the one I was at, but the previous week, sounded like he was really electric. Brandon Hall, director of North Carolina, PBR, was there. I think he struck out like 14 in 6 innings.
Oh, wow.
I heard from scouts that it was really electric, so I was like, all right, got to get in there, especially considering my travel schedule coming up next few weeks. I won't be able to see him. Went in there, and boy, oh boy, he was pretty good, man. He was pretty much 90 and 92 the whole night. Hit 93 several times. Okay. Good life to the fastball. So you're looking at, the fastball might be average velo right now, but it plays up. It's a quick, athletic arm, so it's easy to project that he's going to throw harder down the road. Athletic delivery. You know it. You've seen it. But the changeup and the breaking ball both definitely look like they've, made the progress that we expected out of him.
Yeah.
Breaking ball blends a little bit. That kind of tilt shape to it, slider-like. That's when it was at its best. There were some times where it was more 11-5, but it was a little inconsistent for him. But when he had that tilt, kind of that 10-4 shape, it was just a swing and miss pitch out of the zone. But the changeup, he was in love with the changeup on that night. 82-85, run and sink. We talked about it on the podcast. If he keeps pitching like this, I don't see him getting to South Carolina. I don't know what his number is. I don't know what his desire is. But pitching like that, I know pro teams are going to try to make a run at him.
Yeah, he's similar to like a guy like Denneberg when we talk about who had caught. He played football, wasn't fully on concentrating on baseball. And obviously, he played basketball this season. He had played football in the past. So I think his best is going to be towards the end of the year once he gets built up. But even further into the future, the scouts really love what they see, and you and I both do. And Dunk, they could pop him earlier.
Yeah, they certainly could. So I'm sure the coaches with the Gamecocks are probably sweating it out a little bit. He's definitely getting some attention. I imagine some big name guys will be in there to see him this week as the NHSI is going on, which obviously brings in a big crowd of scouts, and usually prospects in the Carolinas, feel that effect of that. Garrett McDaniels is a left-hander in South Carolina that's been getting some buzz. He's throwing on Tuesday night, so I'm sure a lot of guys will go in to see that before games for the NHSI start on Wednesday. So, but for you, Shooter, you finally caught your white whale. There's a 2020 that you were chasing around all last spring, but the weather kind of wasn't conducive to it. But you finally saw your guy, Mick Abel. And how did he look?
that Oregon sunshine last year, which was just rain constantly, got the best of me. But you know what? Mick Abel's 6'5", 180-pound 2020. Everything, you can't say enough about it, looks right. The mechanics are super clean. The arm just really works, loose and whippy. He was 90 and 93 early on. It's effortless. Like, there's much more in there, and he's still thin, lean. It's athletic. Had trouble a little bit with the command of the fastball and the breaking ball, but each time he would lose it, he would come back and be dirty with 1-2. Put him away with a nice 79 to 82 slider, which has a chance to be a swing and miss plus type pitch in the future. But I can't say enough with how clean and effortless it works. I don't want to comp him to Mark Pryor, but remember Mark Pryor, how clean everything was? That's how he is on the mound. It didn't have the best results. It's early in the year. He's still growing into that long frame, but there's a lot to like. Another Oregon State commit, which we're going to have a lot to talk about on this show. But he has a chance to be special, especially out here in Oregon, where there's not quite as many as SoCal and Texas. But he's going to be a name for the next 2 years people are talking about.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. When you posted the video of him on Twitter, You didn't need a radar gun. It was just the way it came out and the way the delivery looked. It caught my eye for sure. So he's certainly one that we'll have to keep an eye on moving forward. Now joining us from the Great White North is Chris Kemlo of PBR Ontario. Just returned from watching Team Canada as well as several others down in Florida. Chris, thanks so much for joining us today. Hope you had a good trip down to Florida. How's life treating you, man?
Yeah, life's great. Trip was really good, and just excited to be on here and talk some Canadian baseball with you guys.
Excellent. Well, let's get right into it. And we can't talk about Canada without bringing up Noah Naylor, who is the #1 prospect right now, younger brother of Josh Naylor, who was a first-rounder a couple of years ago. All eyes are on him when it comes to the draft and the Canadian prospects. How did he look down in Florida? It's obviously a really good look because those guys are facing professional opponents.
Yeah. We got to see Naylor over the course of 10 days. First off was with his club team, the Ontario Blue Jays. They worked out for about 3-4 days in Vero Beach, and then he went off to the national team. So got to see him face some college arms and then right into the mix against pro guys. And Naylor was a typical self, driving the baseball, really good at bats. For me, one of the things that stand out just with his quick hands and his ability to move the barrel around the zone, and also his plate discipline. You don't often see him chasing bad pitches, and he can recognize the off speed. And it was a typical Noah Naylor when, talking about him at the bat and driving the ball from gap to gap.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference between with Josh and Noah on the field when it comes to the tools? Obviously, Josh was very well known for his bat, which Noah is as well, but there's still some differences between those two guys.
Yeah, you could say Noah is a little bit more athletic, with the ability to go ahead and catch and then move to an infield position and play that really well. That kind of speaks to his athleticism. And then we talk about the bat. Josh was some of the most power I've ever seen from anyone, let alone Canada, but in North America. And Noah's a little bit more of the hit tool and move the ball around and spray the ball a little bit, where Josh was just a little bit more raw power.
Excellent. And then we got a really toolsy outfielder in Denzel Clark. How did he look on that trip down there?
Yeah, much improved, like a lot of these kids are going to be. Even, seeing him with the Super 60, continuing to get stronger. Patrol center field, like he's a D1 guy right now. It's above average. The arm strength keeps improving. And even at the plate, like he had a more of aggressive approach than he has in the past, and, was driving the ball to right center. And I think over the time, as he continues to add strength, there's going to be a little bit of power that comes in that bat as well.
Excellent. Before we get into some of the underclassmen, just tell these players, and them kind of on a personal level too. You get to talk to them quite a bit. Very tight-knit group up there in Canada. What is that experience like for them to not only get to go down to Florida for an extended period of time and enjoy, some decent weather, but face the competition that they get to face? When we cover it in the U.S., we got high school teams. There is good competition out there, but they're not facing pro guys. They're not going out there facing Marcus Stroman like Team Canada did, with the Blue Jays spring training. What do the kids think of that, and what does, obviously, what does it do for them?
Yeah, well, first of all, they're all extremely grateful. Can't speak enough to what the national team does and how they prepare their guys for the next level and prepare them for the upcoming season. But for them to go ahead and face pros for basically their first time out of the gates here in the new year, it's eye-opening, I think, for a lot of the guys to kind of see what it's actually like. And then to kind of, it's not a 6-month grind, but for them it's still 2 weeks and playing every day, and you're practicing, you're getting up early, and kind of shows them kind of that pro lifestyle and what it actually takes to be a professional ball player.
Excellent. And before Shooter tries to chime in here, I'm going to ask about Keegan Pullen Thorpe. He's a guy that I saw you. He thinks I don't watch underclassmen, but I do. And I noticed his video when we were talking about guys that were coming to the future games, and it was so clean and easy. The velo wasn't there, but you could just see in the delivery, the quickness of the arm, that he was going to be a guy. How was his trip down to Florida, and what did he show for you?
Yeah, we saw Keegan throw a couple innings, finish off a game against Fort Lauderdale All-Stars, former independent players, but, noticeably stronger. I think it's 6'4", 205 or something right now, but you can notice the strength and the muscle he's kind of put on over the winter. But like you said, it's an easy arm. There's whip there. He threw a couple really good curveballs. Might have been the two best curveballs I've seen him throw. I think it was 72, 74. But it's easy. It's quiet. The head stays still. You know, he had him up to 89 indoors. He was 86, 87 this day, but, you know, bright future. And I think there's a lot more to come out of that arm for sure.
Excellent.
Now, you said 205. Are we talking pounds or kilos on that?
There it is.
There's your first Canada joke.
Just want, but
what's
Brody,
more surprising, if the joke came from Shooter or me?
Brody, at the future games, though, I really loved Thorpe.
Yeah.
He was one where the velo, again, wasn't jumping out like some of those guys who were up in the 90s there, but you could just tell this arm really works loose. He's athletic. It's going to make that jump, and it sounds like he's starting to do that, and I think that's why a lot more schools are starting to call on him, and why in the 2019 rankings he's going to make another jump.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where if you're at the field, like you don't even need to put the radar gun up to know that this guy is going to be a guy to follow and that he's got, you know, a high ceiling. Just everything else about him, you know, jumps out. So
was a puck moving defenseman as well.
Of course he was. I feel like for Canada profiles, they all need third position, like right wing or, you know, defense. Or
so. Now, Kemlo, another tough kid like that, TJ Schofield, who I got to see in Jupiter during the fall, which it's a good experience for the guys similarly in the fall. Ontario Blue Jays. It's always great energy when you see the Canadian teams down there at the World Wood Bat, just because they're so eager to be out in the field competing against all these high talented players. But Schofield is one who just seems to get hits. Physical kid, probably another hockey player, but he just got hits down there. I really liked him in the 2019 class. What do you got on him?
Yeah, you know what? He's one of our favorites down here for sure. You know, it doesn't necessarily jump off tools-wise, but when you go ahead and you see him and you plays 2, 3, 4 games, he's a guy that stands out immediately. Lots of hard contact. I think there's going to be more power to come as he matures and gets older. But he's just a guy, you see the work ethic. He plays with a lot of jam. And like you said, he's always coming up with a big hit at a key moment typically.
Yeah, now you talked about the tools, you know, more you want to watch him over a few days and see more at-bats from him. Another guy, Oregon State commit. We're quickly, Rody, becoming an Oregon State commit show. But Cesar Valero is going to end up being the top player in your 2019 rankings right now. But just watching him from afar, that swing really plays. And, I mean, I'm sure Oregon State's expecting him to hit in the middle of the order in the future.
Yeah, he had a really impressive week down in St. Petersburg. He was hitting typically anywhere from the 3 to 5 hole, which is really impressive with the roster that they're putting out. But
yeah,
it was an easy swing. It's a big high finish, driving balls at left center. He was the first one to hit a home run against the Phillies minor league affiliate, so he's a really good-looking kid. I think he might eventually make the move to third base as he continues to fill out and get stronger and get bigger, but you know, the hands really play. His footwork's under control. He's a fun one to watch.
Yeah, he's got that athleticism. And what about Justin Thornton, another Oregon State commit, 2020? How's he looking?
Yeah, he's a kid out the far west in British Columbia. He's a lefty guy, and it's a legit two-way guy right now. In the box, it's under control. There's bat speed there. He's another 6'4", 205-pound guy, pounds, not kilograms. But and on the mound, you know, I know he was up to 88, 89 early on in January. Velo wasn't there this trip, but everything's clean. The arm really works. He gets out front. He creates good angles downhill with his leverage. So, you know, 2020, a lot of time still, but he's a guy that's going to be really interesting and really fun to watch over the next few years.
Yeah, it's a BC guy, which is closer to me out here on the West Coast, so I'm happy. I know that there's been great talent coming out of Vancouver and BC for a while now, so I'm glad that PBR is on the coverage out there.
Yeah, they got a loaded 2019-2020 class, and you know, future game trials and pro days. That's something we're gonna have to get you out to for sure.
Oh yeah. I need my passport.
Yeah, make sure you have that. So. Excellent. Well, Chris, we really appreciate you coming on and talking about some Canadian prospects. I had to sneak that one in there. So, but appreciate it as always. Looking forward to having you again down the road, and hopefully you stay warm up there. Hopefully the snow melts away, and you guys get some spring ball in.
Thanks, boys. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Kemlo.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Shooter, to wrap things up here, let's look ahead at the next week of action. What do you got going on out on the West Coast?
Not much going on out here, and to be honest with you, it's your Super Bowl this week with the NHSI. You've been counted down since November at the ABCA when they released the teams. You were very excited about that. So I'm going to be following and living vicariously through you at the NHSI as I prepare for the Boris Classic.
Yeah, definitely. NHSI, we got practices on Tuesday. Games are Wednesday to Saturday. If you listen to the podcast, which is on prepbaseballreport.com right now, you can hear us go into a little bit more detail. But as always, it's a loaded class. This one has a ton of draft prospects in it. I think when the teams were released, there was like 15 guys from the top 100, the high school top 100 that would be here. Slade Ciccone, unfortunately, is not going to pitch in the event, but should be out on a mound soon enough. Disappointed we won't see him here, especially against some top competition, but understandable, and certainly he'll get some looks down in Florida.
Yep.
But Matt Libator will be on the mound. We'll have a Cole versus Cole matchup with Cole Winn versus Cole Henry.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is. And then, some big hitters as well. Bryce Terang, Brandon Howlett, Alec Thomas, Tristan Casas. And then several guys that weren't in the top 100 that will be ones to follow that easily could have been or will be down the road. Guys like Corey Acton, who's been, having a really strong season so far. Is going to get plenty of looks, batting in the same lineup as Tristan Casas. So certainly we'll be on the lookout to see how he does.
Hey, Rody, we said this on the podcast, but I just want to go on the record again. I'm taking Calvary to win it all. I'm taking them.
Awesome. I'm going to stick with Team California. It's hard to pick against any California teams given their dominance of the NHSI. Since its inception in 2013, they've won every year except 1 year, and that was when the first academy out of Florida won. But I'm going to stick with California, and I'm going to go with Orange Lutheran. I've been asking the coaches for their pitching rotations this weekend, and when Olu sent me theirs, it really jumped out because you know as well as I do, 2020 Max Rasick, a right-hander, is a dude, and he is listed to pitch their 4th game. So when you got a guy like that can go game 4, that means you've got some pretty good depth, and if you're playing 4 games in 4 days, that's a key to winning. So I'm going to stick with Orange Lutheran Lancers, and if they pull it off, it would be back-to-back NHSI championships for them. So they'd pull off what Mater Dei did in 2013 and 2014.
Okay.
So that's a look. Thanks again to Chris Kemlo for coming on and talking Canadian prospects with us. We talked Owen White, Mick Abel out in Oregon. A little look ahead at the NHSI. Be sure to follow along on Twitter, prepbaseballreport.com. We'll come back with some follow-up on the NHSI on the next episode of Coffee and Curveballs, and look ahead as well to the Boris Classic, which Shooter and I will be at next week. So until next time, we'll see you guys at the ballpark.